The early morning mist clung to the pine trees like a shroud, hiding the vast Montana wilderness in its ghostly embrace. Wren stood at the edge of his cabin's weathered porch, his calloused fingers wrapped around a steaming mug of coffee. The isolation suited him. It had for the past 2 years since he'd walked away from everything he'd known. The nearest town was 40 miles east, and that was just fine by him. His cabin was modest, hand-built from local timber, with a metal roof that drummed a steady rhythm during rainstorms. Inside, shelves held books, tools, and supplies. A small generator hummed in the back, providing enough power for basic necessities. Wren had learned to live with minimal comforts, finding peace in the simplicity of survival. As the sun climbed higher, burning away the mist, Wren's eyes scanned the tree line. Something fell off today. He couldn't put his finger on it, but years of military training had honed his instincts to a razor's edge. His fingers unconsciously brushed against the pistol holstered at his hip, an old habit that hadn't died with his civilian life. He remembered the last words his commanding officer had said to him: "You can run from the world, but you can't run from yourself." Well, Wren had proven him wrong. For 2 years, he'd done exactly that. No missions, no orders, no complications. Just the mountains, the forest, and the endless sky. The morning passed with his usual routines. He checked his trap lines, collected firewood, and repaired a leak in the cabin's roof. But the nagging feeling persisted, that sense of being watched, of something existing just beyond his perception. As night fell, Wren sat by his fireplace, cleaning his rifle. The shadows danced on the walls, and outside, the wind howled through the trees. He was about to turn in when he heard it, a sound that didn't belong in this wilderness. A low, mechanical whine that rose and fell like a distant siren. Wren doused the fire and moved to the window, peering into the darkness. There, above the tree line, a faint glow pulsed and moved erratically. It wasn't a helicopter, the sound was all wrong. It was something he'd never heard before. The light suddenly streaked downward, disappearing behind a ridge about 2 miles north. The whining sound cut off abruptly, replaced by eerie silence. Wren's military training kicked in. He grabbed his pack, rifle, and night vision goggles and headed out into the night. The forest was alive with the usual nocturnal sounds, owls hooting, coyotes yipping in the distance. But underneath it all, Wren sensed something else, a disturbance in the natural order of things. He moved silently through the trees, his feet finding purchase on familiar paths even in the darkness. An hour later, he reached the ridgeline and crouched behind a fallen log. Below, in a small clearing, smoldered the remains of something that definitely wasn't from Earth. Metallic fragments glowed with residual heat, and scorch marks radiated outward from an impact crater. A sound to his left made Wren swing his rifle around. There, caught in the beam of his flashlight, was a figure. Humanoid, but not human. Her skin had a faint purple luminescence. Her features were delicate yet alien. She was tangled in some kind of metallic netting, her strange clothing torn and bloodied. For a moment, they stared at each other, two beings from different worlds, united by shock and uncertainty. The alien woman's eyes, large and silvery, held intelligence and fear in equal measure. "Don't move," Wren said, though he knew she probably couldn't understand him. He approached cautiously, keeping his rifle trained on her. The woman, Isha, he would later learn, watched him with a mixture of wariness and desperation. As he got closer, he could see she was badly injured. Burns marked her exposed skin, and something dark and viscous, blood, seeped from multiple wounds. She spoke then, her voice musical yet urgent, in a language unlike anything Wren had ever heard. Her hands gestured weakly toward the netting that trapped her. Against his better judgment, Wren lowered his rifle and drew his knife. "I'm going to cut you free," he said slowly, knowing she wouldn't understand but hoping his tone would convey his intent. Isha tensed as he approached, but didn't struggle. With careful precision, Wren cut through the metallic strands. As soon as she was free, Isha tried to stand but collapsed immediately, unconscious. Wren stood there for a moment, contemplating his options. He could leave her here. Whatever mess she was involved in wasn't his problem. But something in her eyes had touched him, a desperation that reminded him too much of soldiers he'd seen in the field, abandoned and alone. Damn it, he muttered, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. He gathered Isha into his arms, surprised by how light she felt. Her skin was cool to the touch, and up close he could see intricate patterns, natural or artificial, he couldn't tell, running along her neck and arms. The journey back to his cabin was arduous. Isha remained unconscious, her breathing shallow but steady. By the time Rin kicked open his door, the first hints of dawn were painting the eastern sky. He laid her on his bed and began the process of cleaning and dressing her wounds. Her anatomy was surprisingly similar to human, though he noted subtle differences, an extra joint in her fingers, a different arrangement of musculature. As he worked, questions raced through his mind. Who was she? Where'd she come from? And most importantly, who else might be looking for her? As the sun rose fully, Isha stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then snapping to alertness when she realized where she was. She tried to sit up, but winced in pain. Easy, Rin said, holding up his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. You're safe here. Isha's gaze darted around the room, taking in her surroundings. She spoke again in her musical language, her tone questioning. I don't understand you, Rin said, feeling foolish. He gestured to himself. Run. Then he pointed to her, raising his eyebrows questioningly. She seemed to grasp his meaning. Isha, she said, placing a hand on her chest. Over the next few hours, they developed a rudimentary form of communication through gestures and simple words. Isha was clearly intelligent, quickly picking up basic English words. But she remained guarded about how she'd come to crash in his forest. As night fell again, Rin found himself sitting in his armchair, rifle across his lap, watching Isha sleep. He'd given her some of his clothes. They hung loosely on her slender frame. The pragmatic part of him screamed that he was making a mistake, getting involved in something way beyond his understanding. But another part, the part that had sent him into isolation in the first place, recognized a kindred spirit in Isha, someone running from something, seeking refuge in an unlikely place. Little did he know, their troubles were just beginning. 3 days passed in an uneasy routine. Isha's wounds healed at an astonishing rate, far faster than any humans would. She began to trust Rin enough to share fragments of her story, using a combination of broken English and elaborate hand gestures. She was a scientist from a world called Kyria, she explained. She'd been transporting something vital, a data core containing information about an impending invasion. But her ship had been attacked, forcing her to crash land on Earth. They come, she said one evening, her silver eyes reflecting the firelight. For me, for this. She reached into a hidden pocket of her tattered uniform and produced a small crystalline device that pulsed with inner light. Rin felt his stomach tighten. Who's coming? Hunters. Soldiers. Those who want. She struggled with the words, control. Power. They destroy worlds. Run. Many worlds. As if on cue, the distant thrum of helicopter rotors reached their ears. Rin moved to the window, seeing lights sweeping the forest in the distance. They're not from my government, Rin said grimly. But they're definitely looking for something. The next morning, Rin found fresh boot prints near the perimeter of his property. Professional, methodical, a search pattern he recognized all too well. They were closing in. We need to leave, he told Isha. Now. As they packed essentials, Isha paused by Rin's armchair. She looked at him with an intensity that made his heart skip a beat. What if I sit? Right here? She asked, gesturing to his lap with a playful yet nervous smile. It was the first moment of levity between them, a spark of something more than mere survival. Rin felt his face flush. We should really get moving. But something had shifted between them. As they fled deeper into the wilderness, their connection grew stronger. They moved as a unit, anticipating each other's needs, communicating with glances and subtle touches. They found temporary shelter in an abandoned ranger station, high in the mountains. That night, As a storm raged outside, Isha revealed more about her mission. The crystal contained not just data about the invasion, but a potential weapon, a virus designed to shut down the invaders' technology. But it must reach right people, she said. On Earth, scientists who understand. And these hunters? Ren asked. They serve the Dominion. If they take Crystal, she shuddered. Earth will fall. Like Kyria, like others. The weight of responsibility settled on Ren's shoulders. He'd spent 2 years running from the world, from responsibility, from connection. Now, the fate of his planet might rest in his hands. There's a facility, he said slowly. Military research. About 200 miles south. If these hunters are who I think they are, that's where we need to go. Their journey became a deadly game of cat and mouse. The hunters, a mix of human mercenaries and something else, something otherworldly, seemed to anticipate their moves. Twice they barely escaped ambushes, saved only by Isha's enhanced senses and Ren's combat experience. During a particularly close call, Isha was shot. The wound wasn't fatal, but it slowed them down. They holed up in a cave system Ren knew from his early days in the wilderness. What? Isha asked as Ren tended to her wound. Why help me? Risk everything. Ren paused, considering. Because someone has to. Because I've spent too long running from things that matter. She reached up, touching his face with her cool fingers. On Kyria, we have saying, the universe brings together those meant to change it. Their kiss was electric, a fusion of 2 worlds, 2 lonely souls finding solace in each other. But it was cut short by the sound of approaching vehicles. They found us, Ren said grimly. What followed was a desperate battle. Ren's military training served them well, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. As they fought their way through the cave system, Isha revealed another ability. She could interface directly with technology, turning their hunters' own weapons against them. But it wasn't enough. Cornered in the deepest chamber of the cave, ammunition running low, Ren made a decision. Take the crystal, he told Isha. There's an exit behind that rock fall. I'll hold them off. No, she said firmly. Together or not at all. As the hunters closed in, Isha did something unexpected. She pressed the crystal against her forehead, and her entire body began to glow. The cave filled with blinding light. When Ren's vision cleared, the hunters lay unconscious on the ground. Isha swayed, clearly drained by whatever she'd done. The virus, she explained weakly. I activated it. Temporary. We must hurry. They escaped into the night, making their way to Ren's old military contacts. The facility was heavily guarded, but Ren's reputation still carried weight. Within hours, they were face to face with Dr. Sarah Chun, head of the xenobiology department. The next few days were a blur of activity. The crystal's data was uploaded, analyzed, and disseminated to a network of scientists worldwide. The threat was real. The Dominion had been infiltrating Earth for years, preparing for invasion. But now, humanity had a fighting chance. As government officials and military brass took over, Ren and Isha found themselves sidelined. They stood on the facility's observation deck, watching the sun set over the desert. What happens now? Ren asked. Isha leaned against him. Now we prepare. The invasion will come, but Earth will be ready. And us. She smiled, that same playful expression from days ago. What if I sit? Right here? She asked again, settling onto his lap as they watched the stars emerge. This time, Ren didn't hesitate. He wrapped his arms around her, feeling the steady pulse of her alien heart against his chest. Stay as long as you like, he whispered. In the distance, a shooting star streaked across the sky. Or perhaps it was something else, something watching, waiting. But for now, 2 beings from different worlds had found each other, and that was enough. The war would come. They would face it together. Months later, as the first Dominion ships appeared in Earth's skies, Ren and Isha stood side by side in the command center. She wore a human uniform now, her rank recognizing her invaluable contributions to Earth's defense. You never did tell me, Ren said as alarms blared around them. Why did you really come to Earth? Of all the planets you could have crashed on. Isha smiled mysteriously. Perhaps the universe knew what it was doing. Perhaps it knew I'd find you. As they prepared for battle, Rin thought about the strange path that had led him here, from isolation to connection, from running to standing firm. He'd lost himself in the wilderness, only to find something greater than he'd ever imagined. The first wave hit, and chaos erupted. But humanity was ready. The virus worked as promised, disrupting Dominion technology, leveling the playing field. Rin and Isha fought together, their bond stronger than any weapon. In quieter moments between battles, they talked about the future. If humanity survived, what then? Would Isha stay on Earth? Would Rin journey to the stars with her? Home is not a place, Isha told him one night as they watched their forces regroup. It's wherever we choose to be together. The war raged on, testing them in ways they never imagined. They lost friends, saw unimaginable destruction, but also witnessed the best of humanity: courage, sacrifice, innovation in the face of extinction. Finally, after months of conflict, the tide turned. The Dominion retreated, their invasion force shattered by Earth's unexpected resistance and the virus that continued to plague their systems. Victory celebrations were bittersweet. Earth had survived, but great cost. As reconstruction began, Rin and Isha faced their own crossroads. A ship from Kyria arrived, survivors who had heard of Isha's success and came to join the fight. They offered her a choice: return home as a hero or stay on this adopted world. That evening, in the cabin where it all began, now rebuilt after being destroyed in the fighting, Isha found Rin sitting in his old armchair, staring into the fire. Without a word, she walked over and sat in his lap, just as she'd playfully suggested so long ago. "I've made my choice," she said softly. Rin's arms encircled her. "And what if I sit right here? Forever?" He kissed her then, tasting stardust and home, past and future, all wrapped in this remarkable being who had crashed into his life and changed everything. Outside, the stars shone brightly in the clear Montana sky. Somewhere among them was Kyria, Isha's birth world. But here, in this simple cabin, two souls had found their true home. The universe, it seemed, had known exactly what it was doing after all. Years passed. The story of the alien woman and the hermit soldier became legend. Earth entered a new era of interstellar cooperation, with Isha serving as a bridge between worlds. Rin never returned to his isolation, finding purpose in this new reality. Sometimes, on quiet nights, they would sit together on the porch of their cabin, watching the stars. Occasionally, ships would pass overhead, traders, diplomats, explorers heading out into the vast cosmos. "Any regrets?" Rin would ask, and Isha would smile, lean her head on his shoulder, and reply, "Only that I didn't sit here sooner." In the end, love had proven stronger than fear, connection more powerful than isolation. Two beings from different worlds had found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances, and in doing so, had helped save a planet. The universe, vast and mysterious, continued its eternal dance. But in one small corner of Montana, beneath an infinite sky, Rin and Isha had found their own piece of infinity together.